भगवान् व्रजेश तनयस् तद्धाम वृन्दावनम् रम्या काचिदुपासना ब्रजवधूवर्गेण तया कल्पिता। श्रीमद्भागवत पुराण अमलं प्रेम पुमार्थो महान् श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभोर्मतैदं नायत्रयाग्रहपरा। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदा सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखा लतांश्च। आजानुलम्बितो भुजो कनकायवधातो संकीर्तनै पितरवो कमलायताक्षो विश्वम्भरो द्विजवरो युगधर्मपालो वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरो करुणा अवतारो पतित पावन निताय गौर सुंदर की जय। प्रेम धाम एव नौमि गौर सुंदरम प्रेम धाम नौमि गौर सुंदरम। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada की जय। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर जगतगुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती नामिने। श्रीवार्षभान्वी देवी दैताय कृपाब्धये कृष्ण संबंध विज्ञान दायिने प्रभवे नमः। माधुर उज्ज्वल प्रेमाध्य श्री रूपानुग भक्तिद श्री गौर करुणा शक्ति विग्रहाय नमस्तुते। नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुगा विरुद्धा अपसिद्धांत द्वंद्वहारिणे। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय। श्रील कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी ठाकुर की जय। श्रील राय रामानंद की जय। गौरांग महाप्रभु की जय। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today is February the 20th, 2022, and we will be discussing from Chaitanya Charitamrita the conversation, continuing our conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rai Ramananda. If devotees can recollect when we started this chapter, just a quick recap. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left Jagannath Puri and he went for the South Indian tour. And before leaving, he was requested by Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the court acharya or the pandit of the king of Odisha, Raja Prataprudra. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya requested that when you go to your tour for the southern Indian tour, please definitely give your darshan to Rai Ramananda. He is a wonderful devotee. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he reaches very close to Vidyanagar, where Rai Ramananda is the chief minister. And there is the temple of Jihad Narsingha. He takes darshan there, and in ecstasy dances and chants and takes rest that night at Jihad Narsingha. And then he goes in the direction out of ecstasy to meet Rai Ramananda towards the banks of the Godavari in Vidyanagar. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, seeing the Godavari, thinks of Vrindavan, thinks of the Jamuna and the forest, the banks at the Godavari. He feels that the consciousness is Sri Vrindavan Dham. So again there he dances and chants, and in ecstasy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he finishes taking a bath and he sits chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Few moments later, Ramanand Rai, who is the chief minister, arrives, or the governor rather. He was the governor of Vidyanagar. And he arrives with his security guards, his ministers, and the Vedic Brahmins, which was his daily routine to offer his oblations to the Godavari river and then take a bath. Upon doing so, after taking a bath and the Vedic Brahmanas reciting the Vedic mantras perfectly, and the musicians that accompanied Rai Ramananda beat on their kettle drums and mridangas and their kartals and musical instruments, trumpets, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, seated a little bit further away, Rai Ramananda observes this wonderful personality, a sannyasi who is in saffron clothing and is effulgent like thousands and thousands of suns. Naturally, he was attracted in that direction, and Rai Ramananda went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and offered his prostrated obeisances, his Dandvat pranams. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, looking at Rai Ramananda, was in ecstasy. He got up and he beheld him and he gave him a very nice, tight embrace. Both of them went into ecstasy. They both cried. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Krishna, Krishna Nanda Nandan, in the mood of Sri Radha. And Rai Ramananda is none other than Vishakha Sakhi, one of the principal friends, the gopis in Raj Mandal, the Swapaksha gopi of Radharani. Like we know that there is Lalita ji, Vishakha ji, Tunga Vidya ji, Sudevi, Ranga Devi, etc. So but Lalita and Vishakha are very dear to Sri Radha ji. So Rai Ramananda is none other than Lalita, than Vishakha Devi. Upon meeting each other, they were both in ecstasy. They both rolled down on the ground, and there were Ashtasattvic vikars in them, or the 8 different transformations when somebody is in bliss, in bhakti. At that time, there are different transformations that take place, the vikars in the body. There is hairs stand on an end, romancha. There is kampan, there is shivering, there is taranga ashru, lots of stream, rivulets of tears flowing from the eyes, and there is discoloration, there is thamba, just one becomes like completely like a statue, unable to move. So these are some of the very ecstatic symptoms that both of them displayed. The Brahmanas and the ministers and the security guard from far, they watched and they were shocked to see that Rai Ramanand himself was a great Pandit. And here he is in ecstasy, rolling on the ground. Both of them are crying after meeting a sannyasi. They could not understand that. So the commentaries by our acharyas that the Vedic Brahmanas, although they were perfect in the chanting of the Vedic mantras, and they knew all of the Vedic mantras, but they did not have bhakti. And unless and until one is pure bhakti, one cannot understand the Lord or the Lord's devotees. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. Only through pure bhakti one can know me. Brahma Samhita says that Vedesha Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Even by studying the Vedas completely, Vedesha Durlabham. Durlabh means it is not possible or it is rare, Durlabham, to obtain Krishna. But Atma Bhakta means with pure bhakti, one can obtain Krishna. So like that, our Vaishnava acharyas, quoting the Shastras, many places have mentioned Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati only. So those Brahmanas didn't have bhakti. Brahmans are of 2 categories. One is of the quality of a Vaishnava, and the other one is the quality of a Brahmavadi. Although they may be sattvic in nature, they may have gone beyond the mode of ignorance, tamogun, and the mode of passion, rajogun, and they may be on a sattvic platform, but they may not have entered the Shuddha Sattvam or the Vasudev Kutumbam platform, which only pure Vaishnavas can. Vaishnava is beyond the 4 varnas and ashrams. Actually, the 4 varnas of the Brahmacharya ashram, the 4 Shudras, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, and the Brahmins. The Vaishnavas are beyond that. So, obviously, they could not understand. And when Rai Ramanand felt the tight embrace and so much love of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said that I am a Shudra, because by birth he was a Shudra, Rai Ramanand. And according to the Vedic injunctions, you are a sannyasi, the highest order in the varnas, the 4 varnas, Shudra, Grihastha, Kshatriya. The Brahmanas are the head, or they are the highest order. And you should not be touching a Shudra like me. And upon introduction, Mahaprabhu said that no, Sarvavata Charya, asked me to specifically come and see you. And out of great humility, Rai Ramanan says that he is so kind to me. It is out of his kindness, it is his good qualities that he requested you to come see me. And he made a great endeavor, and he convinced you to see me. So like this, Mahaprabhu said, indeed, I have come here to just meet you. And it is very good that even without making an effort, I have gotten your interview. And Ramananda Rai, again, taking a very humble position, says, Sarvabhaumacharya thinks of me as his servant. And even in my absence, he is always thinking of always good things about me. And now by Sarvabhaumacharya's mercy, I have received your darshan. And therefore, I consider my life has become successful. This is Vishaka Sakhi. This is what we discussed last time, that the humility should be there. Even Mahaprabhu himself, who is none other than Radha Krishna, displays the highest humility. Radhaji has the highest humility, and it is so natural for her associates to be very humble as well, where required. But of course, for the sake of Leela, especially when it comes to the Rasik Leela, or in the Madhurya Rasa, especially in the Man Leelas, then it can also be the opposite. But everything is on the transcendental platform. It's nothing to do with sense gratification. When we take to Krishna consciousness and we have studied the Bhagavad Gita and we have heard a few lectures and we have chanted for a few years, we think we are very good devotees. That ahankar seeps in, that false ego. So we have to guard ourselves. Even when Vishaka Sakhi, who is Prana Sakhi, Pran means Radharani cannot live without these Sakhis. So, including like Vishaka Sakhi. So, displaying that highest humility, feeling that is what this Chaitanya Charitamrita Prasanga, or the conversation, the samvad between Rai Ramanan and Mahaprabhu, before it even actually starts, the Vaishnava etiquette is displayed here. Rai Ramanan acknowledges that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and I am just a government servant. So a government servant, and also born in a Shudra family. And because I am a government servant and a Shudra by birth, I'm always engrossed in materialistic activities. I'm very low. Although he is a Pandit, Rai Ramanan. As a matter of fact, in Krishna Leela, whenever there is some kind of a dispute between Radharani and Krishna, she becomes Guru. She becomes even Guru of Radharani by training her that, look, Krishna has given you pain. He was supposed to come at such and such a time. Look, all night we have been waiting in the Nikunja and he has not shown up yet. When this rascal Shyam Sundar shows up, you do not at all, I'm teaching you, show any interest in him. Turn your face away and don't try to feel or make him understand that you have been missing him. So this is very high transcendental Madhurya Rasa or Mahabhav symptoms. So she acts like a guru. Sometimes Lalita ji acts like a guru. Sometimes Tunga Vidya ji acts like a guru. Sometimes when Krishna behaves in a very erratic way, of course, this is only to enhance the Rasik Leelas, to make the prema even more sweeter and thicker. Sometimes the behavior is such that it calls for a conference between Radharani and the gopis. And these are Varishta gopis who they take Radharani himself. And then even when Krishna comes, Radharani sometimes say, you know what? I'm not talking to you. My Guru has said not to talk to you. And Guru Agya is the highest. So like that, the rasa increases, and which is so true. The Vedic injunction, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, Chitte te kori aikya na aur na kori ho mone asha. The instructions of the Guru, we sing that every day in the Guru Puja, that the words that emanate from the lotus lips of my Guru, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, Chitte te kori aikya aur na kori ho mone asha. And I will follow the instructions of my Guru very, very strictly with all my heart and soul. And I do not seek any other desires except to follow the instructions of Sri Guru. Tomorrow is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura Prabhupada's appearance. Already in India, it is the appearance. Those devotees joining from India, Nandpran Prabhu, and whoever else have many, many wonderful tidings of this very auspicious day. His Divine Grace Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada was perfect in all respects. The descriptions that have been given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the Mangal Arati, Samsara Davanal, and by Narottam Das Thakur in Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte te kori aikya aur na kori ho mone asha. Sri Guru Charane Rati ei shei uttam gati je prasade pure sarva asha. Only attachment to the lotus feet of Sri Guru Charane Rati ei she uttama gati, and that is indeed the highest achievement or destination, which is Golok Vrindavan or Rajdam, service in Rajdam to Sri Radha in Radha Dasyam. Uttama gati je prasade pure sarva asha, and by his mercy all my transcendental desires will be fulfilled. Because Sri Gurudev is Sakshat Haritvena Samasta Shastra Uktas Tatha Bhavyata eva Sadbi Kinto Prabhoya Priya eva Tasya Vande Guru Sri Charnaravindam. Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad says in this in the Mangal Arati in the 7th verse that the pure Acharya is non-different from Krishna, because thinking, feeling and willing just like Krishna. Although they are different, but they are non-different, just like the Achintya Bheda Vaida Tattva. And the last verse also, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasado Yasya Aprasadat Na Gati Kutopi Dayans Tuvams Yasya Stri Sandhyam Vande Guru Sri Charnaravindam. My obeisances unto all those Guru Acharyas by whose mercy we receive Krishna's Yasya Prasadat. Guru Prasad is Krishna Prasad, Bhagavad Prasad. Yasya Aprasadan, if we do not get the mercy of Sri Guru, na gati kutopi, we cannot advance. Therefore, Dayans Tuvams Yasya Stri Sandhyam Vande Guru Sri Charanaravindam. Therefore, I offer my obeisances minimum 3 times a day when I perform my Gayatri Mantra, Trikal Sandhya. Sandhya means the confluence when early morning turns into daylight from the Brahma Muhurat. That's the first Sandhya. That's when the persons who have been twice initiated, they chant the Gayatri Mantra at that time. And in that, there are 7 Gayatri Mantras. One is the general Gayatri, which is also known as Surya Gayatri or the sun, but Krishna is the sun. And most of you all in India know I'm not allowed to speak those in a general audience because that is the Vedic injunction. But the first one everybody knows, Om Bhur Bhasva Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. So, Bhargo Devasya. So, according to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, according to the general meaning that most Vedic people, they translate the first Gayatri Mantra, it's we meditate upon the sun and the sun's energy. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, we meditate. Because sun is a very powerful planet. Amongst all the planets, the sun is the king. Ya Chakshur Savita Esha Sakala Grihanam. In the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma says that the sun is the eye of the universe. And the sun is the king amongst all the planets. So it is said that even by astrological standards, if somebody's sun is very powerful, and if all the other planets are weak, like somebody may have a weak Shani or a Saturn or a weak Mangal or the Mercury planet, then it can create some imbalances in their lives and it can bring some heavy karmic reaction. But if the sun is very powerful, the sun line, especially, by the way, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura, he was an amazing astrologer. How did he get this name Saraswati? His name was Bimla Prasad. Just a few words because of his appearance tomorrow, combining it with the Chaitanya Charitamrita verses today. So he was an amazing personality. When he appeared in Puri, adore, adore ye all the happy day. We sang that song in English today before the kirtan, before the class began. Srila Prabhupada wrote this poem on the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura in Bombay in 1935 as an offering to his Guru Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada was also dubbed Kavi Raj. Kavi means poet and Raj means the king of poets. As a matter of fact, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura, whatever our Abhay Charana Ravinda Das, our Prabhupada, ISKCON founder, wrote, he told his senior god brothers and his senior disciples, whatever Abhay writes, publish it. Because Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura had a fortnightly magazine known as the Harmonist in English, and in Bangla it was known as Sajjan Toshani. And our Srila Prabhupada was a very prolific writer. And this was a very pleasant surprise for His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura, where he wrote, adore, adore ye all the happy day, sweeter than heaven, brighter than May, when he appeared in Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, His Divine Grace. He starts the poem like this, and the meaning is very simple and easy. The English that Srila Prabhupada, the English of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura was impeccable. As a matter of fact, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Prabhupada's English was so amazing and so impeccable and of such high grade that one would literally need a dictionary to read his books. If you pick up the Brahma Samhita, Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON founder Acharya, did not translate that. He said it is sufficient. My Guru Maharaj has translated it. So the copies that we are getting, that are even being circulated today, are actually the translations and purports of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura, Prabhupada. And the English is just like awesome, so perfect. Oh, my Master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up the candle. Struggle for existence, a human race. The only hope is divine grace. Misled, we are all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways to turn our face. Adore thy feet, your divine grace. Misled we are in Maya. Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON, says to his Guru Maharaj, praying on this appearance day, that we are all going astray. That is another very humble prayer, although he is none other than the eternal Manjari in the service of Sri Radha, under the guidance of Nayana Manjari. Nayana Manjari is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura in the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And he is very dear to Rupa Manjari, Rup Goswami. And his service, he is about 13 years old, or she rather. Nayana Manjari is approximately 13 years old. And under the guidance of Rupa Manjari, her service to Sri Radha is amazing. one special service is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's, one of the most special services is applying lac on the lotus feet of Sri Radha. Can you imagine, touching the lotus feet? We cannot even take darshan of the lotus feet of Sri Radha. Only on Radha Ashtami or on Gopa Ashtami, we can, in certain temples, we get the darshan. But this is every day in the Sringar Rasa. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as the as the assistant to Kamla Manjari, who is Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and a very dear assistant to Labanga, Rati, and Rupa Manjari, he gets this very special seva of applying lac. Lac is the red, what is it called in Hindi? Roli. That enhances the beauty of Radharani's lotus feet, or rather the lac's beauty is enhanced by the lotus feet of Radharani, the other way around. So, okay, Brahmaji himself admits that in the Brahma Samhita, what is that nice verse where he says that by drilling the respiration for thousands and millions of years, the yogis sit in meditation. They do not even obtain the effulgence that emanates from the lotus toenail of Sri Krishna. And there is no question of even millions and billions of devotees able to either see the lotus feet of Sri Radha, and even more so the lotus feet of Sri Radha. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has this service every day as Nayana Manjari. And our Srila Prabhupada is Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale, very dear to Sri Krishna, who has descended from Golok Vrindavan to this earthly planet. The first two lines are common in even Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Pranam Mantra. Krishna Preshta, both are Krishna Preshta, Bhutale. And they both descended from the spiritual sky of Golok Vrindavan into this material world. Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine, known as Bhakti Vedanta Swamin, the name, and also known as Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti Namine, known as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was a title that was added because he was a great astrologer, and at the Calcutta University he got the chair at the Calcutta University for astronomy, and he even wrote a book called Surya Siddhanta. So therefore he was called as, the word Siddhanta comes from there also, and of course Siddhanta means from the highest Bhakti Siddhanta, the highest principles or the highest perfections in Bhakti, which is Radha Dasyam, becoming a servant of Sri Radha. That is the highest Siddhi. And then in Srila Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra it is mentioned, Namaste Saraswate Devi. We have mentioned this many a time. Most of us, we make a lot of mistakes. We say Namaste Saraswati Devi. It is not Saraswati. Saraswati means we are calling out to the goddess of learning. So here Prabhupada has grammatical, it is incorrect in Sanskrit grammar to speak or recite Namaste Saraswati Devi, because we are eulogizing Srila Prabhupada. We are not eulogizing the goddess of learning, Saraswati Devi. The Pranam Mantra is specific to Srila Prabhupada. If one wants to sing the Pranam Mantra or recite the Pranam Mantra of the goddess Saraswati, then it's a different one. Ya Kundeyendu Tusharahara Dhavala, Ya Shubhra Vastravina, Ya Veena Varamandit Dandita Mandita Kara, Ya Shweta Padma Asana. So that is, etc. That is the Pranam Mantra of Saraswati the goddess of learning. But this is Saraswati Devi. So it is Sanskrit, where here we are addressing A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the transcendental son of Saraswati Thakur. We mentioned this in our previous many occasions when the occasion arises. Krishna's, one of the names of Krishna is Vasudev, and the father is in Mathura is Vasudev. Mother is Devaki, to whom Krishna appeared in Mathura. Therefore, he is known as Vasudev. Similarly, there are so many different Sanskrit where the father's name is embedded. Like, for example, King Vrishabhanu. So, Radharani's name is Varshabhanvi Devi. Vrishabhanu and Va, where A comes with a line on top when it is transliterated into English, then the daughter, the Devi, the transcendental daughter of King Vrishabhanu, so is Varshabhanvi Devi. Like the daughter of King Janak is Sita Mata, the consort of Lord Ramachandra, but she is also known as Janaki, the daughter of Janak. Janak when is Janak, and Janaki. Janaki is specifically it means Sita Devi. So here's Namaste. I offer my obeisances. Namaste Saraswati Devi, the transcendental son. Because once we are initiated by our spiritual master, then our relationship becomes Dvija. Janmana Jayate Shudra, Sanskarat Bhavati Dvija. By birth, we are ignorant. We are Shudras. Shudras means ignorant. The word, if we translate from Sanskrit into English, it means ignorant. Ignorant, why? Because we don't even know how to speak. Our parents teach us our ABCs, our numbers, our vocabulary, etc. We are taught how to speak our language. So by birth, we are ignorant. Janmana Jayate Shudra, Sanskarat Bhavati Dvija. But when we get sanskars, especially spiritual knowledge or initiation, then we are Dvija. Dvi means second, and Ja means Janma. Janma means birth. So we are twice born. So we get another birth. So just we get a birth from our natural parents, we also get our spiritual birth from our gurus, from our acharyas, our Siksha gurus, our Prachalan gurus, our initiating spiritual master, the entire parampara where we get the transcendental knowledge. So that's why Namaste Saraswati Devi. This we have to be careful next time because now that we know, we have to make that conscientious effort to not to say Namaste Saraswati Devi. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pracharine. So, like this, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he appeared in Puri, as Srila Prabhupada says, adore, adore ye all the happy days, sweeter than heaven, brighter than May. It is so sweet because your appearance, whenever a devotee and Krishna, they are not Janma Karma Chemi Divyam. So even when a great devotee appears, it is Divyam, it is transcendental, it is sweeter than the blessed than heaven. Because in heaven, we can get all the sattvic or the modes of goodnesses, but it is even more sweeter than heaven. Why is it sweeter than heaven? Because the mercy of Sri Gurudev, especially in the Vaishnava Sampradaya and especially in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, it is so sweet that we get the opportunity to serve in the transcendental realm. And so sweet, out of the sweetest of all the Vaikuntha planets is Vrindavan, Golok Vrindavan. And amongst all the different rasas or mellows, the sweetest of the sweetest rasas is the Madhuri rasa. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada, there's so much if we look at, there is Gaudiya rasa even in this wonderful English poem by Srila Prabhupada, sweeter than heaven, brighter than May. Because May is the summer month and it is so nice and bright. And then, so when he appeared at Puri, the holy place. So Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada, he appeared in Puri. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was actually a very great magistrate, perhaps one of the only Indian body magistrates amongst the English judges. We are talking about pre-independence. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was so efficient and so learned, uh, not only from the spiritual angle, but even from the material angle, that the judges, the British judges, were very envious of him. He was posted to some of the most roughest areas in India, so that where the British could not control the Indian people who were either revolting against the British rule, etc. So they used to send Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was posted in different areas. So one of the areas that he was posted was Jagannath Puri. And being a magistrate, a judge, he had a lot of respect in the society. And even the British judges he used to listen to about 50 cases a day, which was about 5 times more than most of the British judges. And some of the British judges were so envious that they tried to find some fault in the conclusion or the judgment of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In Srila Kedarnath Dutt, that was his name, Judge Kedarnath Dutt. And they could not find anything. And at the same time, he used to finish everything by 2 p.m. Well, most of the judges were still there, until 4 or 5 p.m. at the bench. And after 2 p.m., Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakurji used to go home, very close to the Jagannath Puri temple, about half a kilometer on Bododanda. In English, the British called it the Grand Avenue or the Grand Road. And in the same line of the Jagannath Puri, there is a place called Narayan Chhatta. Chat means shelter or an umbrella. So that home of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Judge Kedarnath was known as Narayan Chhatta. And there, when Bhaktivinoda Thakurji every day used to go to the Jagannath Puri temple and pray to Lord Jagannath, pray to the consort of Lord Jagannath, Bimla Devi, that please send me an assistant, because Vaishnavism is becoming extinct, and I need to, I am a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I need an assistant to help me in propagating Mahaprabhu's movement. So lo and behold, after the fervent prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had 10 children, but after he prayed, the 4th child, especially in Puri, the 4th child that appeared to the womb of Bhagavati Devi, the wife of Srila Kedarnath Datta and the mother of Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur, a nice, wonderful son. And by birth, the symptoms were amazing, the physiognomy. The umbilical cord was wrapped around naturally around the neck like a Brahminical thread. It has been described. And his physiognomy showed that he had very long ears and long hands that would touch his knees. And just the same thing with Srila Prabhupada. If you look at Srila Prabhupada, by general standards, was a short man, but his hands were long that touched the knees, and he had big ears. So we can find that such personalities are very intelligent. Same thing was the case of Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur named him Bimla Prasad. Bimla, because Bimla Devi, the consort, who is an expansion of Sri Radha, she gifted the son upon prayers. So then he named this 4th child Bimla Prasad. And Bimla Prasad was a very, very serious personality, just reminding us of the life of Naradji. Naradji in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find in the conversation between Vyasdev and Naradji. Naradji tells Vyasdev, the compiler of all the Vedas, the incarnation of Mahavishnu, he is a disciple of Naradji. And Naradji, because the disciple was despondent, was sad, it became the duty of the Guru to eradicate the darkness and to eradicate the doubts of his student Vyasdev. When he arrived there at Badrikashram, and he told him his own story, how he became Narad. He said, I was not ever interested in playing with toys when I was a child, even when I was 4 or 5 years old. I was very serious, and I always helped my mother, and I served Vaishnavas, etc. And then the special mercy happened on me at the very young age. some sadhus came, and my mother and I, we served them very nicely, and the sadhus blessed me. And that's how I became Narad. They gave me their Uchista Lepan. They gave me their remnants. They were pure devotees of the Supreme Lord. And by their mercy, I became Narad. And also, after they left in a few days, by the will of providence, my mother was taken away by early in the morning while she was in the fields. A poisonous snake bit her. So I didn't have anybody around me. So I just left for the forest and in search of you, O Krishna. So similarly, we find that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a very grave personality. And even in the childhood, we know that famous part when Bhakti Vinod Thakur, many people used to come because to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from him. And because he was also a magistrate, he was highly respected. People in society, they used to come and they used to bring bhoga. So one day there was in the mango season, mangoes came, and the young boy, 4 or 5-year-old Bimbal Prasad, picked up a mango and started eating it. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur saw that, and he rebuked him, he chastised him. And he chastised him also. First, he kind of apologized. See, this is the amazing part, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur knows who Bimbal Prasad is. He is none other than Nayana Manjari. He is Kamla Manjari. But he says, here I am playing the role of your father, so I must chastise you. Without offering Krishna, you have taken this. That is not good. Keep that mango away. If you want to have mango, sure, certainly have your mother offer it, or you can offer it, and then accept it as prasadam. Bimbal Prasad took that to his heart. And since then, he never touched a mango. Even when he was in the Gaudiya Math in his 60s, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I think he passed away at the age of 64 years old, I think. Somewhere there in the 60s. In January 1st, 1936, according to the English calendar. That's when he passed away. So he till then, he did not touch a mango. Devotees brought mangoes. His disciples brought mangoes. They offered it to the deities and they brought it to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta used to simply touch that plate and to his forward. They accepted and offered honor to the prasadam, bowed down to the prasadam of Krishna, of Radha Krishna. He says, I'm an offender. I can never take a mango. I vowed to do so. Like this, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, right from that young age, and he was an encyclopedia. He was very fluent in Arabic, Farsi, the Iranian language. So was his father. Of course, Sanskrit, of course, Bangla, the Bengali, and English. Oh, Kedarnath Dutt Babu or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and both father and son were amazing. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written poems in English. There is one famous poem known as the Parade. You can Google it. So we find that in this parampara, there is a lot of good poetical and musical talent, because Srimati Radharani is very talented in this 64 kalas. Radharani is a Chausat Kala Nipuna. She is perfect in the 64 different kalas, or these different arts. And one of the arts is music, poetry, cooking, etc. So all of them were experts, our acharyas, in these subject matters. So here, writing in English, Srila Prabhupada says that when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, His Divine Grace, oh my Master, the evangelic angel. So he is an evangelic angel. And considering that this would be read by people from all over the world at some point, Srila Prabhupada had chosen some amazing words in English. Evangelic, like they say that the evangelist church, we find there's a lot of them. So that is something that will, maybe my good friend today, Gaurmani Prabhu, has joined us. And he is from, he's not only a wonderful Vaishnava, a very senior person who had also taken darshan of His Divine Grace Prabhupada. Maybe later on you can explain what the word evangelic means. But I believe that the word evangelic is something to do with connecting to God. And I've seen in the US many evangelic churches. So churches have different denominations. the Presbyterian Church and the evangelists, etc. So, oh my master, because our Guru is our master and we are the servants. The evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle. Please give us the light. So here Prabhupada is clearly the Vedic verse, Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Our Guru Maharaj, he lights up our ignorant, we are born in ignorance, darkest ignorance, Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya, with the torch of knowledge, of the transcendental knowledge, he opens our eyes. So give us thy light up, thy candle. Struggle for existence, the human race. My Lord, the only hope is divine grace. So we are all struggling. Our existence in this material world is samsara davanal. We are burning in this great huge forest fire, taking birth again and again. Puna puna janam, puna puna maranam, janani jathare shayanam. Sri Shankaracharya Prabhupada says that again and again we are taking birth and we are being born to different mothers, tied up with the mothers of different umbilical cords. Janani Jathare Shayanam, we are sleeping by taking birth prior to our births to different mothers in different species of life. So it is a struggle. And the struggle can only come to an end because the only hope is divine grace. So we are so fortunate. Our only hope is His divine grace. Not only is divine grace of Prabhupada, A.C. Bhakti Swami, but Bhakti, we have got such great stalwarts like Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura, Shrila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Gaur Bhajivar, the entire Guru Parampara, all the way to Sri Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, who had taken direct siksha from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We find that later on, I think in the same Madhya Leela of chapter number 15 and 16, we are into chapter 8, a special topic that we have been discussing for the last 4 weeks, is the meeting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rai Ramananda and the conversation. So, like this, misled we are, going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. So again here, eulogizing his spiritual master on his Vyas Puja day, and that was the last Vyas Puja, by the way, of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur. He's saying that we are all misled and we are going astray. And it is our fervent prayer to you. Haha Prabhu karo daya, deho more pada chaya, eve just gushuk tribhuvana. Just like Narottam Das Thakur in our Guru Puja, at the end he's saying, Haha Prabhu. It's a cry. It's a fervent cry, a heartfelt call. Haha. Like Advaita Acharya, when he called out to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Ashtakam, the Advaita Ashtakam composed by Sarvamata Acharya. Hunkar garjanadi ahoratra sadaguna ha Krishna radhika nath prarthanath prarthana adi bhavana. With a roar, hunkara, loud cry, please Krishna, come please, it's time for you to come. It's when. So similarly, when we fall down at the lotus feet of any great Vaishnava Acharya, we should feel our cry. We should be, how wonder thy ways to turn our face. Our face is Bahirmukh. Bahirmukhs, we are meaning we are looking away from Krishna. We are averse to Sri Krishna. So what will be the different ways? What are the different ways? You have so many techniques to turn our face to Sri Krishna. And our Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhakti Swami was such an expert. Many people from all walks of life, whether they were bishops and archbishops and business people and police chiefs, and all kinds of people used to come see Prabhupada, and they used to talk about so many different topic matters. Professor Kotowski in Moscow, and so many different and many reporters and media personality, and they talked about so many different topics. But Srila Prabhupada was such an expert that he would turn and dovetail everything to Sri Krishna. Everything. So wonder thy ways, how that wonder thy ways to turn our face. Right now our face is turned away from Krishna. We are Bahirmukh. So we have to become Sanmukh. Sanmukh means we have to face Sri Krishna. We have to perform our activities in such a way that is for the pleasure of Krishna. So darkness around, all untraced. This darkness is there all around us and it's untraced. We cannot even go back how many years? 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 2 million years, 20 million years. Therefore, Thakur Bhaktivedanta uses the word anadikal. Anadikal means since time immemorial. You cannot even count. Srila Prabhupada translates that word anadikal. Kal means time. And anadi means no beginning. Adi means beginning. So Srila Prabhupada, in a simple terms, he says since time immemorial. One cannot even go or rely on one's memory. 1,000, million, trillion. No. Impossible to even trace. So darkness all around us, because every time we are born in this material world, it's darkness. There is no spiritual light. The only hope is divine grace. Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura is addressing, you are my only hope, you are our only hope. Message of service thou has brought. So here we see that he has brought this message from the spiritual world. Like even Srila Prabhupada brought the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Golokera Prema Dhana Hari Nama Sankirtana. Narottam Das Thakur says in this bhajan, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Gainu, Manusha Janama Paya, Radha Krishna Navajiya, Janiya Shuniya, Bishakhainu, Golokera Prema Dhana Hari Nama Sankirtan. So this sound vibration of Sankirtan. Sankirtan not only means the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but Sankirtan means the glorification of Radha Krishna. Samyak Kirtan iti Sankirtan. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur defines the word Sankirtan as many, many meanings. So one of the Sankirtan meanings that most of us all we are familiar with is the congregational chanting. But what does Sankirtan mean? And recollecting the definition given by His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The word Sankirtan is comprised of two words in Sanskrit. And when we break them down, Samyak Kirtan iti Sankirtan. Samyak means full, complete. Kirtan. Kirtan means glorification. So what is complete glorification? So again, that is a frame of reference. There are many, many devotees in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, just not only the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they have also different relevance and terms for their pure devotion and full kirtan. But for us, the Gaudiya Vaishnava, what is full kirtan or samyak? The word samyak means full or complete. Like the word sama is used in many, many places, in many verses, and even the prefix in Srimad Bhagavatam. Sama asita. Sama asita means full, complete surrender. Just not asita. Like that, just to remember a few words. Samyak, complete kirtan means the glorification of Radha Krishna. And where there is Radha Krishna in the Gaudiya Bhav, in the Bhav of Mahaprabhu, naturally the associates of Vrindavan, of Raj, are naturally present, especially in the Madhurya Rasa. So we have to try to understand some of the deeper nuances of what our acharyas are saying, and we can only be blessed if we are sincere, and if we open up we are sama asita to Srila Prabhupada, completely surrendered, at least, or we have that complete desire to surrender. We may not be fully surrendered, but at least we have this full desire to completely surrender. So like this, in his poem he says, message of service thou has brought. Another incident that I can remember just on the word message, I think it was 1920s. I can't recollect the exact date. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur was visited by Professor Suthers of the Ohio State University from the United States. So of course it was under the British Raj, and even the US dignitaries used to visit, because the British Empire and the what do you call, the East India Company, the seat was Calcutta, and that's where the capital was. So many dignitaries came. So Professor Suthers, who was a teacher in theology, a professor of theology, at the Ohio State University. He came and he heard about Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because he was an amazing scholar. As a matter of fact, we were very fortunate back, I think it was in 1999, when I had gone to Mayapur assisting my Guru Maharaj, Nitya Leela Pravist, Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. When I was traveling with him, 1999, 2000, at that time, Abhay Charan was also in the process of being produced. So I got the opportunity to go many places with Guru Maharaj. And then later on, after I was coming back to the US, before boarding a flight to Calcutta, I had many hours. So then I had gone to the Bhag Bazar Gaudiya Math, the main, just like Mayapur is considered the head office of ISKCON. Bhag Bazar is a very populated, famous area in Kolkata. And there, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur made the headquarters of the Gaudiya Math there. And we find that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's room is there. It's locked up, and you can take darshan from the window. The pujari goes every morning, only he generally goes in, and on special occasions like appearances and disappearances, there's a festival. So at that time, the doors are open, and only the sannyasis and the senior Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Math are allowed inside to offer flowers, etc., Pushpanjali, and of course, every day the Guru Puja. Some or the other, we were blessed one day, that particular day in 1999, and there was one Sannyasi Maharaj who was one of the prominent, his name was Sannyasi Maharaj, by the way. So he, now I think he is the chief of the Gaudiya Math in Bhag Bazar presently. Because I think after Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there was Odlovi Maharaj. After Odlovi Maharaj was Srila Bhagwat Maharaj. After Bhagwat Maharaj was Parivajrakacharya Maharaj. And after Parivajrakacharya Maharaj, Sannyasi Maharaj. Up to Parivajrakacharya Maharaj, Parivajrakacharya Maharaj was, I believe, a disciple of Odlovi Maharaj. And Odlovi Maharaj was Srila Prabhupada's senior godbrother. So he was the Mahanta. He was in charge of the Bhag Bazar Gaudiya Math. Anyways, so talking about the scholarship of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Sannyasi Maharaj, some of the other blessed me. He opened the doors and says, you can come in. And I was able to very nicely take all my time, afternoon time, no disturbance. Nobody was there, just me and Sannyasi Maharaj. And I got the great joy and bliss of touching and on my head many paraphernalia of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his walking stick, his towel, his rajai, his comforter, his bed, his pillow, his seating L-shaped sofa. Very famous picture where he is seated nice and erect with one, I think it is Chaitanya Charitamrita on his lap, and he is seated in a very straightforward posture on an L-shaped sofa. So that sofa is there. And then his writing desk, his pen. And I was just aghast when I saw the cabinet full of books. There were huge granthas, very old. You can see from the texture that they were all kind of become brownish beige because of the aged, perhaps some of the books that he received from his own father. They were all, and he had personally organized them, cutting the calendar dates, the numbers, because in the calendar you have the 1 through 30 or 1 through 31. And he had, Sannyasi Maharaj explained that he would use everything in the source of whatever was available in Krishna's service. So even a useless calendar, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would take a scissor and cut it and number his books and catalog them. And they were just amazing. His tilak was still there. Like we find that in Srila Prabhupada's quarters in Vrindavan, where Srila Prabhupada's room and his meeting place, and where Srila Prabhupada left his body. There are 4 rooms in Srila Prabhupada's quarters. Prabhupada's sleeping room, Prabhupada's servant's room behind Srila Prabhupada's desk, and also Srila Prabhupada's bed, where Srila Prabhupada left his body. And then there's one more little room next to it, where sometimes the guests were waiting and the servants also were waiting in case Srila Prabhupada needed them. That's where Srila Prabhupada's palanquin is there. When Srila Prabhupada, the last few days, he was so emancipated and transcendentally, it appeared to our eyes that he was so weak, he could not walk. So his disciples used to carry him on a palanquin and get darshan of Gaur Nitai, Krishna Balram, Lalita Vishaka, Radha Sam Sundar in Vrindavan. And then, of course, when he left his body, they took Srila Prabhupada's divine body before they put him into Samadhi all over Vrindavan, Vrindavan Parikrama on that palanquin. And then there is Prabhupada's kitchen in the back. And there's a Prabhupada's garden. So like this, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's quarters were very, very humble and very, very simple. And we find that he had his pen and he had that quill where he used to dip it into the ink and write his commentaries. So all those paraphernalia were intact there. He even had a winter coat that he wore, like made out of a quilt with a belt. I vividly remember all this, the paraphernalia. And it was just, and then the amazing thing that really happened is Sannyasi Maharaj opened a locked case, and there were the shoes of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that was so overwhelming. I still remember how much mercy, he opened it and he put the shoes on my head. And, somehow the other, a fallen person like me, I got some mercy. And today at Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad group and whatever little katha I can do, I feel that the mercy is there of our acharyas by Srila Prabhupada, by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. What can I say, on such a special occasion? So he has brought a message of coming back to Professor Sathars in the 1920s. When he met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they had a wonderful conversation. And it started with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur being asked questions that, respectfully, he kind of brought this point about the Hindus or the Vedic culture where about morality, that your Krishna, the gods or God Krishna, it's a lot of it by biblical standards, there is some immorality because he was referring to because he was a theologist. He knew about the Vedic culture from wherever he had gathered information without really understanding the deeper nuances. So he made that remark that about the the activities of Krishna as excuse me, as not really very social or not very sattvic, we can say so, because of him associating with many married women, the gopis, etc. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur very respectfully said that we revere the teachings of Lord Jesus Christ. Lord Jesus Christ was a wonderful Vaishnava, and the basic principles of Vaishnavism he followed. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also mentions about Jesus Christ. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions and respects Jesus Christ, and even, of course, our A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. But he says that the morality of the Vaishnavas is far beyond that you can even imagine of the Christians or Catholics. As a matter of fact, we claim to be better Christians or Catholics than the ones that are presently in the name of following Jesus Christ. Some amazing words. And then there was a very amazing discussion where Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. And at the end, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, kind of blesses Professor Sathars with his Vani, with his words. And then Professor Sathars was aghast. The words were as follows of Professor Sathars, that what I've heard from your divine grace will take me years to digest. And he simply exasperated after hearing the deep Gaudiya philosophy and Professor Sathars hearing that explanation directly from a very dear servitor of Rup Manjari and Sri Radha. So can you imagine the fortune of Professor Sathas? So he brought this message. Like that, even in Kolkata, many business magnates and many people used to kind of, in a subtle way criticize Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur that, oh, you're preaching so much, and their son Nagar Sankirtan going out and performing the Sankirtan everywhere. What will happen if everybody leaves their jobs and businesses and they just come to the temple and they join you? Then what will happen? What did Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur say? That I will break a brick from Vaikuntha, and that will cover the cost of everything. So that we can see how much confidence that he came from. Krishna Presthaya Bhutale, he came from that spiritual sky. What is the realm of no anxiety, generally known as Vaikuntha, but within Vaikuntha, the topmost planet is Golok. And in Golok, what is Golok described by Lord Brahma? Chintamani Prakarsadmasu Kalpa Vruksha Lakshat Priteshu Survira Virpalayantam Lakshmi Sahasrashata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamahame. Chintamani, the roads and the Golok Vrindavan is full of gemstones. Prakarsadmasu Kalpa Vruksha Lakshat, there are millions and millions of desire trees. So Bhakti Siddhanta says, I will bring one brick from Vaikuntha. I will bring, and that will cover more than the cost, because one gem or one brick from pure brick from the spiritual world will be unfathomable and its value, and it will cover the cost. Also, another conversation we're talking about, because considering the poem of the 5th verse of Srila Prabhupada, message of service thou hast brought. So that message of seva, service means seva of Radha Dasyam. But also, Professor Sathas asked Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur that one is not, you talk about all these places in the spiritual world where Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati talks about Vaikuntha and Golok and describes, and he speaks with Shastric evidence. But we have not seen it. How would we believe that? So Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur, if I recollect properly, the essence of what he answered, Professor others, a pure messenger will come from that domain, and he will give us information of that pure land, of that transcendental land. And those who are very fortunate, who get an audience or who get a darshan of those personalities who come from, or those messengers who come from that transcendental land. So how fortunate we are. Krishna Presthaya Bhutale, both the Prabhupads, of course, all the Prabhupads, Rup Goswami Prabhupada, Sanatana Goswami Prabhupada, or Raghunath Das Goswami, they are all known as Prabhupads. Because Prabhupada means, Prabhu means Sri Krishna, the master of Sri Radha. Prabhu also means Sri Radha, a deeper meaning, a rasic meaning. And Pad means one who is completely surrendered to the lotus feet of Sri Radha or Radha Krishna, Samyak, both of them. So that personality is known as Prabhupada. Not all can be Prabhupada. All persons can be devotees, but to be a Prabhupada is a very exalted title, because they are constantly surrendered. Nikun, that particular word Prabhupada is perfect in described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad in the Mangalarti of the 6th verse. What is that? Nikunja yuno rati keli siddhya yaya alibhir yuktir apekshaniya tatra ati dakshat ati vallabhasya vande guru Sri Charanarvindam. I offer my obeisances unto all those. Guroho. It is not Vande Guru. Again, just a little note for those of us who are mispronouncing. Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam. Many people, when they sing the Mangalarti, devotees, they sing it. It's Vande Guroho. Guru Sri Charana. Guru. Even when we sing Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha. So the word Guru means plural, offering obeisances unto all the great Vaishnavacharyas. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is not only including his own guru, but he Baldev Vidyabhushan, but also he's including all the acharyas in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering obeisances Vande Guru Sri Charanaravindam. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur himself, being a Manjari, a very young gopi in the service, he knows who they are. So in a general way, he has said, addressing all these Gaudiya acharyas, he says, they are Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Siddhya. In the intimate service of Radha and Krishna, Nikunja, in the bowers of Vrindavan, in the most intimacy, Madhurya Rasa, the sweet amorous love, Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Siddhya. They have got that perfection of understanding that amorous love of Radha and Krishna. They are so perfect that Radha Krishna doesn't have to ask them for a particular paraphernalia or a particular service. They are so expert. Nikunja, Rati Keli says, Yaya Alibhir Yuktir Apekshaniya. And they're always desirous, constantly asking the senior Sakhis of Radharani, like the word Alibhi means the Swapaksha gopis of Radharani. The gopis like Lalita Vishaka. Apekshaniya. They're always desirous of asking, hankering for more service. Oh, Lalite, what else can I do? Oh, Vishakhe, what can I do? Is there something else? Is there any more sevas? Therefore, the Manjaris are also known as gopis. They're also known as Swapaksha gopis, and they're also known as Kimkaris. The word Bhaktivinoda Thakur in particular, if those who are familiar with that bhajan, Gopinath, Mama Nivedana Shuno, Vishai Durjana, Sada Kamarata, Vishai Durjana, Tomara Kim Karo Yami, Gopinath. There he says that Tomar Kim Karo. Kim means what? Again, two words combined to form one word of Sanskrit. Kim means what, and Kara means to do. So they are dubbed Kim Karas. Just like when somebody walks, that when we are in school, sometimes we kind of, make a name for a particular friend or a student who is studying with us. Hey, skinny, come here, because he's so skinny. Hey, fatso, come here. We don't call him by the name, but anybody who is fat, we call him fatso. So like that, their names, because they could not stop constantly asking the gopis, what next? What other service? What more service can I do? What more service? Kim Kari, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? So their names became Kim Kari. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a Kim Kari, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur is a Kim Kari, Srila Prabhupada is a Kim Kari, all the acharyas in Gaudiya. So Yaya Alivir Yukti Apekshaniya. Yukti means to engage. Apekshaniya, always desirous of being engaged in the service of Radha Krishna, in the amorous service rather of Radha and Krishna. Yukti Tatra Ati Dakshat. Ati Vallabhasya. Tatra Ati Daksha. And therefore they are so daksha, they are expert in the amorous love of Radha and Krishna, about their perfect services. Therefore Ati Vallabhasya. Therefore they are very, very dear. That's why we find that Namam Vishnupada Krishna Preshta. Preshta and Vallabh, they're identical, same meaning. Krishna Preshta, Preshtaya Bhutale. One who is very dear to Krishna. Because serving Sri Radha so nicely and perfectly, it gives so much joy to Krishna that there are no bounds. And vice versa. It is like, a situation where you cannot really find its origin. Whether day came first or night came first. So whether Krishna is pleased by Radha's service and Radha is pleased by Krishna's service, etc. So it is so much, because Radha Krishna ekatanu hai, niduman vaje, vamsi vajaye. Radha and Krishna are one as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when anybody is serving even one particular entity, especially Radharani, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna in the mood of Radha, is most pleased. So here, coming back to the poem, message of service thou hast brought. That is the message of service, means here's the services, Radha Dasyam. A beautiful life of Chaitanya wrought. And there Prabhupada is clarifying later, right away, that a healthful life as Chaitanya wrought. So what is healthy for us? Healthy for the soul is when we are reunited in the service of Radha Krishna in Radha Dasyam. A healthful life as Chaitanya brought, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Krishna Prem in the mood of Radha. So that is very rasik, although it sounds so nice and simple, just as the regular poetry that could even attract a mundane mind or somebody who has an inclination for literature. But this is so deep and rasa in this. And then this was amazing, the 6th verse. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur was so impressed and so proud that he showed and read this, the 6th verse again and again, and he read this poem to many of his disciples and many guests. He said, absolute is sentient. A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada says, absolute is sentient. Thou has proved, impersonal calamity thou has moved. So from the highest philosophical angle, see, Srila Prabhupada, like Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami was Tattva Acharya and Rasa Acharya, combination of both. Rup Goswami was also Tattva and Rasa. Sanatana Goswami was also Tattva and Rasa, but predominantly Rasa. Rup Goswami was predominantly Rasa. Raghunath Das Goswami was predominantly Rasa. Those who understood Tattva or philosophy perfectly, then they would be able to understand the books of Rup Goswami, the books of Sanatana Goswami, the books of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the books of Vishwanath Chakravarti, because there was already a foundation that was already laid perfectly. Just like somebody who has done well in math in the primary school, in the secondary school, in the middle school, high school, undergrad, grad, bachelors, then they will be able to perfectly use their mathematical skills in their example, in their scientific calculations, if they're in the masters or in their other doctorate degrees. So similarly, the rasa is more or less like postdoctorate, we can say. And postdoctorate, before that, there is a foundation. So that's what Srila Prabhupada, following the footsteps of Jiva Goswami and his Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur, they laid a perfect foundation. And that is basically giving us the Bhagavad Gita, because Vasudev Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabh. We explained that a couple of times before, that by the mercy of His Divine Grace Prabhupada, we not only get our foundation, because we know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the opulence of the Bhagavad Gita, because Krishna speaks about his own opulence. Arjuna acknowledges Krishna's opulence, and most of us are fully convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then what next? That's the question. What next? Are we going to be staying on the perfect ground floor that is beautifully supported by very strong pillars of philosophy and strong concrete, or are we going to further build a wonderful structure of pure bhakti that will take us a ladder or a structure that will take us to Golok Vrindavan, that will take us to the service of Sri Radha? And that is rasa. And in rasa, there comes a point where His Divine Grace Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur, and our Gaudiya Acharyas will open up a different set of doors, secret doors. Chakshudana Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Sei Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. Divya Gyan in terms of Tattva, they have already given enough. We already know quite a bit. But the Divya Gyan, or the transcendental knowledge of rasa, they will open up within our hearts. Because once on Tattva, which is the Sambandha Gyan, then we enter into the Abhidya, the process of obtaining Krishna consciousness or obtaining Krishna Prem. And once we obtain that, that is known as the third stage or the highest stage, known as Prayojan. So generally, you all may have noticed that I always minimum sing the glories of Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Govind Dev Ji, and Radha Gopinath of Vrindavan, because they are the three Thakurs or the three deities that Madan Mohan Ji is the Sambandha deity that helps us in our sadhana bhakti, what is that verse that we sing, eulogizing the pranam mantra of Madan Mohanji? But Mama Manda Matergati Mat Sarvasva Padam Bhojo Radha Madan Mohano. That I am stupid, I have no knowledge. So please, Madan Mohanji, please bestow your mercy on me. And then next we go to Govind Devji. That's the order that we normally, even when we take darshan in Vrindavan Dham, this is the order that we should generally take to. Shriman Rasa Rasar, no, sorry, Divya Vrindaranya Kalpa Dhrumat Srimad Ratnangad Simhasanasto Sri Srila Radha Govinda Devo Preshta Alibi Sevya Manav Smarami. Again, the same thing, Alibi word comes here in the pranam mantra of Govind Devji. Madan Mohanji manifests to Sanatan Goswami Pad. Govind Devji manifests to Rup Goswami. So, Divya Vrindaranya Kalpa Dhrumat, in the forest of Vrindavan, Kalpa Dhrumat, under a desire tree. Dhruma means tree, Kalpa means desire. Kalpa Dhrumat, Srimad Ratnangada Simhasanasto, seated on a beautiful golden throne, are my Radha and Krishna, Radha Govind Devji. Sriman Rasa Rasar, Divya Vrindaranya Kalpa Dhrumat, Srimad Ratnangada Simhasanasto, Shri Srila Radha Govind Devo Preshta Libi Sevya Manav Smarami. And with dearmost gopis, Preshta Alibi, with the dearmost gopis performing service, while Radha and Krishna are seated on a swing under a desire tree in one of the forests of Vrindavan, I offer my obeisances, and I also desire to, following the footsteps of the gopis, to serve. So it is service. When we do seva, Govind Devji literally kind of helps us, because Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami actually prays to Madan Mohanji, Govind Devji, to Madan Gopalji before writing Chaitanya Charitamrita. As a matter of fact, he acknowledges that at this advanced stage, it was not possible for me to write this great treatise, Chaitanya Charitamrita, but actually Govind Devji, Gopinathji, Madan Mohanji, they have helped me in composing the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then when we reach the Prayojan stage, what happens? We are in Krishna Prema. We leave everything. The full surrender has already bloomed in us. And we leave our family, our friends, our money, our material attraction. Sriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamshi Vatastitaha Karshanai Swanar Venur Gopi Sri Gopinathaya Shriyasta. Sriman Rasa Rasarambi. Just like, oh, Gopinath, you're known as the Lord and Master of the Gopis, and you played the flute in Vamshivat. In Vrindavan, there is a very beautiful place known as Vamshivat. Vata means there are what the huge trees, excuse me, or the water trees. What are they called in English? I forget. And under that tree, Krishna stands with his flute in the middle of the night in Vamshivat, and he plays the flute, and all the gopis leaving everything, their husbands, their family, their children, not caring about the society, and they simply run out of pure Krishna Prem, out of Madhuri Rasa, out of Mahabhav to Gopinath. Sriman Rasa Rasarambi, and then he begins the Ras, Rasa Rasarambi. And then when the gopis are fully surrendered after having a wonderful conversation, go back. You know, aren't you afraid of what the society will say, and what your husband will say, and what your mother-in-law will say? What if they find out? You all will be subject to a lot of dirty words and pain, and so the gopis are fully surrendered. You know, you are our real husband, oh Krishna, oh Gopinath. So then Krishna, after testing them to the utmost limit, then he starts the Ras Leela, Sriman Rasa Rasarambi. So Srila Prabhupada mentions this, especially last week when we had the appearance of Lord Nityananda. We sang this bhajan, and we also, in our Chaitanya Charitamrita class, we spoke about Lord Nityananda, where that bhajan of Narottam Das Thakur, Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Susitala Jay Chaya Jagata Judai Heno Nitai Vine Bhai Radha Krishna Paitenai Druda Kori Dharo Nitai Pai Nitayir Karuna Hove Vraje Radha Krishna Paibe Drida Kori Dharo Nitai Pai. if Nityanand Prabhu has mercy on us, then we can enter, we can get the mercy of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport, I remember many years ago, Srila Prabhupada also sang this very beautifully. I remember in Chicago in the afternoon when I used to go for in my brahmachari days, for the Bhogarti around 12 p.m. and Prabhupada's kirtan would go on, and the pujari would be preparing all the different items to offer Krishna. And then after the bhajan was finished, I still remember hearing Srila Prabhupada's explanation on this Nitai Pada Kamala. And Prabhupada was so amazing, and his humor was just awesome. And because at that time, Prabhupada in the 60s, early 70s, most of the persons joining were of Western bodies. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned after singing Nitai Pada, if you want to join the dance party of Radha and Krishna, you must surrender to Lord Nityananda. So it was so hilarious. Even today it puts a broad smile on my face that here he is telling all these hippies and all these Westerners who came that, hey, you like to party, don't you? So, there is a great party, always perpetual party going on in Vrindavan. So if you want to join the party, so here the party means the Ras Leela. So that means we have to get that perfection. We have to qualify ourselves to come to the stage of Prayojan. So like that, Prabhupada mentions that if Lord Nityananda graces us, then we can join the eternal dance party of Radha and Krishna. Dance party. Now I remember the dance party. So Ras Leela. Because everybody likes parties, right? Birthday parties, disco parties. Back then, John Travolta and Grease and all those movies were like they stole the limelight. Every kid in school and every adult was just crazy, and it even came to India. I still remember when I was in school, all those disco songs were like crazy everywhere. In Bombay, where the main markets in Fountain and all those people selling, the vendors were those tapes, were selling all these tapes of Grease and of John Travolta, the songs, etc. So everybody loved those dance parties. And then later, all the 5-star hotels opened discotheques in Bombay, and it used to cost a pretty penny. One time I remember in my college days, I couldn't really afford it. Coming from a very middle class, some of my friends says, let's go. It's, our good friend's birthday and we'll go to a disco tonight. And I said, no, Baba, no, I don't think, I can afford it, and plus I don't drink or anything like that. No, it's all taken care of. All you have to come and do, and you can just take some juice or whatever. So those are the days. I still remember, at that time it was 100 rupees. We're talking about back, what year was that? 1981. So 20 plus another 22, 41 years ago. 41, 42 years ago. 100 rupees in India was a lot of money just at the entrance. So everybody wants to go into dance parties. So our Krishna conscious movement, Prabhupada said, is also always a party. Feasting and dancing in Mahaprabhu's Kirtan. Mahaprabhu Kirtan Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manaso Rasena Romancha Kampashru Taranga Vajo Vande Guru Sri Charnarvindam. So like this, Prabhupada mentioned about this. So that message that we were discussing of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that message, the absolute ascension, thou is proved. Talking about Tattva now, Srila Prabhupada says that you, my dear Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta, you have proved that the Supreme Lord is a person, personalism. That is why Srila Prabhupada, no other transcendentalist ever, even before joining, prior to ISKCON, I had read many philosophical books right from my childhood and my college days in English, because I studied in a convent. So my main language was English. Hindi, Gujarati, I learned later as I went into my 8th grade or 9th grade. Other than that, English was my main language. And I read many different books, the Yogi Maharishi and Vivekananda's philosophy and this and that. But nowhere I had heard this sentence or these words, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is very important. The basis of our foundation, that God is a person, and only only a person you can serve. Supposing if we open the door And if everything is Sarvamidam Khalo Brahman, everything is impersonal, just as an example, just try to imagine who are you going to serve? You open the door and there is just the light and just the energy that's coming into your house. Can you serve a nice hot glass of saffron milk permeated with pistachios and almonds and beautiful snacks? Can you do that? No, you cannot. But you can only derive pleasure through service. It's the renderer of the service and the receiver of the service is the reciprocal service, and the receiving brings the pleasure. And according to our Gaudiya Sampradaya, the recipient of the service, the ultimate goal is the pleasure of the recipient of the service, even at the expense of any kind of pains that the renderer of the service may have to go through. Quoting Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur in one of his bhajans, Tomar Shevaya Yadi Kashta Yadi Hoy, Shahi to Parama Sukha. In your service, even if I have to go through trials and tribulations or any kind of problems, for me, I will consider that as the topmost bliss. Shahi to Parama Sukha. That is the attitude. So the service to Sri Krishna is important, and that's the message. So he says that absolute is sentient. Thou is proved. Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Prabhupada and our Prabhupada were very particular about like banging the gavel. That why you think Krishna is not a person? Every time a Mayavadi would be on the same path coming across, and when they saw Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur, they would immediately jump and leap and go to the other side of the sidewalk. And they didn't want to confront Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur. What is the last line of Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur's Pranam Mantra? Rupa Anuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. Rupa Anuga, those who are the followers of Rupa Goswami. Rupa means Rupa Goswami. Anuga means followers. So in Sanskrit, again, you combine these two words, it becomes Rupa Anuga. So Rupa Anuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta. Those siddhantas are the pure principles of bhakti that are against the teachings of Rupa Goswami or the followers of Rupa Goswami, Dvanta Harine. He would cut into pieces. He was so strong. Therefore, he was known as Lion Guru. He was known as Siva Guru. They were scared. And sometimes Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Prabhupada would even catch that sannyasi, that Mayava sannyasi, by the neck and say, why you're killing Krishna? Why do you think he's not a person? So this is our philosophy. We have to be so our foundation should be so nice that even if we go as preachers, if we go out and we will find in this ocean, like Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur says in his Saranagati Bhajan, in Bhakti Pratikula Bhava Varjan Angikar, in the section where he says that whatever is not conducive in Krishna service, I will reject. So in that there is one bhajan, it is Keshava Tuva Jagata Vichitra, Karama Vipake Bhavavana Brahmi, Pekhalu Ranga Bahuchitra, Keshava Tuva Jagata Vichitra. And in the last line he said, Dandavata Durata Karata Bhakati Vinoda Bhelo, Bhakata Charana Kori Sar. And many other philosophers come. Kapila, Patanjali, Gautama, Kanavuji, Bauddha, Dhave Ave. Many philosophers like Kapil, like the atheistic Kapil Dev. Kapila, Patanjali, now that famous Baba Ramdev, the yogi, the Patanjali was the father of Yoga Sutra. But the whole idea of Patanjali was after we control our senses, it would be for the service of Krishna. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Tad Bhakti Uchyate. Naradji says, Sarva Upadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Tad Bhakti Uchyate. We should get rid of our bodily designations. Sarva Upadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratena Nirmalam. Then we will be purified. And what is the process of purification? Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Rishik means our senses, our eyes, nose, ears, mouth, our hands, our legs, etc. Everything can be used in the service of Krishna, like Amrish Maharaj. In the Bhagavatam, we find that we gave that example, that our nostrils are used for smelling the flowers offered to Krishna, the tulsi leaves that are offered to Sri Krishna. Our mouth is used to taste the prasadam of Sri Krishna, to chant the holy names of Krishna. Vachansi Vaikunta Guna Anuvarnane, and to glorify the personalities of Vaikunta. That means Krishna and Krishna's avatars and Krishna's devotees. So that is what the tongue should be used. Hari Katho, the ears should be used for hearing Hari Katha. So etc. So Rishik means our senses. Rishikena, Rishikesha. And Rishikesh is another name of Krishna. We find that there is a place in North India, Haridwar, Rishikesh. So Rishikesh means the master of the senses. So there also Rishikesh, also some of them consider Lord Shiva as Rishikesh, because he's the topmost yogi. Lord Shiva has controlled his senses so much, he's Vaishnavam Yathashambhu. And we find that a lot of Lord Shiva temples are in Rishikesh. And what is Lord Shiva meditating on? On Sri Krishna, or any of the pastimes of Sri Krishna or his avatars. So Rishikesh. So by sitting in meditation, by his mind, even Lord Shiva, the topmost Vaishnava, and the devotees, the ultimate goal should be to serve Sri Krishna, thinking, feeling, willing, everything to do with Krishna. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatparate nirmilam risikena risikesha sevana tat bhakti ruchyate. Naradji says in the Narad Pancharatra, then that is very good bhakti. Topmost, uchyate. Uchyate means very high category bhakti. So, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur, absolute sentient thou has proved, impersonal calamity thou has moved. You have removed that impersonal calamity. Today, even if you go to India, we find that everybody, even in Vrindavan, there are so many impersonalists, Mayavadis. And at the end of the day, their conclusion is that everything that we see, there is no Krishna, there is no Radha, there is nobody. Satchitananda Rupam Shivoham Shivoham. We are He, I am God. And my existence is eventually annihilated into the Brahman, into the undifferentiated effulgence. So this is what is going on, this nonsense. And Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur and Prabhupada really nailed it right there when he mentioned it. Absolute ascension thou has proved, because he heard his Guru Maharaj speak. Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur commenting on A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada that this Bhabhai Charan likes to hear. When he was in Rajmandal, at that time, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur used to do the parikrama, and he used to take his disciples. And Prabhupada was a business person. He had a job. Sometimes he used to just get off the train in Mathura, and then he would sit and listen to his Guru Maharaj speak Harikatha. And many of his Prabhupada's God brothers would sometimes in the evening get up and go take darshan of different temples. But Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati remarked in front of everyone, he likes to hear, referring to our founder Acharya, A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada. He likes to hear. And then he also kind of, in a subtle way, chastised his disciples that the best way to take darshan of the Dham or the Lord is through the lotus mouth of Sri Guru. That's the way. How we can take real darshan? Real darshan is through our ears, not through the eyes. Eyes we can also, but that is the best way of taking darshan, because he is the messenger who brings the message from that distant land, from the transcendental. This gives us a life anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. But that is what that gives us a life anew and fresh. Fresh meanings we will enter into the Vaikuntha Loka, into the Dham. We will enter into Golok in our original spiritual body. When we finish our first 8 stages of Ado Shraddha, Tatha Sadho Sangha, then Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivritti, then Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, and after Bhav we get at the stage of Bhav, at the 8th stage. At that time we get a glimpse of who we are, our Ekadash Bhav in Golok Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada and our Acharyas will reveal that which Gopi we are, or which Manjari we are, whose assistant we are, which group do we belong to, what is our dress, what is our tilak, what is our service, etc. So there are 11 symptoms. Ekadash Bhav is revealed to us after we attain that that after we cross over the sadhana bhakti, and then we enter into raganuga bhakti, and then we enter into Krishna prema, and then that is our life. That Srila Prabhupada says that that gives us a life anew and fresh. It's a new body, eternal body, Satchitananda Vigraha. That's what we will also get, eternally speaking, that is not subject to decay. So that gives us a life anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. Then Srila Prabhupada, in the second last verse, eulogizing his Guru Maharaj on his Vyas Puja, he says, had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna forceful and bold? So that was the quality of Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati. Lion Guru. Simha in Sanskrit means lion. So he was so bold, not afraid. One time, talking about his boldness, in Kolkata, even today, if we go, there's not many Vaishnavas compared to the followers of Vivekananda and Ramakrishna. Our dear Acharya Nidhi Prabhu will tell us that. He's present. He's from Godhead. He's from Bengal. He's from Bangladesh. So most of the people today, they are Shaktas. The festival of Durga, the Navratri festival is just amazing. More than Janmashtami and more than Gaur Purnima. There are so many Shaktas, worshippers of Durga, and there are so many other philosophies that are floating. Even today, we find that almost in every house there is a picture of Vivekananda and Ramakrishna ji. They're there, but we don't find the picture of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although he was from Bengal and he is the one who was an instrumental in Prithvicha Adi Nagaradi Ram Sarvatra Hibimur Nam Prachar. In every town and village, my name will be spread. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned that. So even then, because sense gratification, Durga Devi is the source of sense gratification. Lord, there's most people who are in the Vedic culture, they worship the demigods, Durga Devi, Lord Shiva, for material benefits. Excuse me. So we find that it is, even at that time, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Prabhupada's disciples used to go out and preach. And sometimes they were invited to some sabhas or some meetings where there were different philosophers and different Vedic so-called representations were there. So in one meeting, one of the disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati got up, and he was said that he actually was instructed by Bhakti Siddhanta, you go and represent us, the followers of Mahaprabhu. And when it's your turn to speak, you can speak. So I will be sitting in the back. So his disciple, following the instructions of his Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada's godbrother, he went in the front. When it was his time to speak, he very boldly spoke about the philosophy of Vaishnavism and against the tendencies that most people have for sense gratification. And then he even went to the extent of calling Vivekananda a spiritual gunda. And when he used those words, the entire crowd in that hall, they started throwing shoes and this and that, and they became violent at that point. And then Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur, he stood up in the back and says, yes, my disciple is right. And seeing that purity and that gaze, everybody couldn't just stop, and they stopped in their tracks. So like that, there are many incidences in the life of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur where he never compromised. He was very bold, even at the expense of his own life. Even in Navadvip, there was a Brahman Vaishnava Sabha in the 1915 or 1917. And there also, when he spoke about the Brahmins from the Shastras, the Brahmanas were very happy. The Orthodox, but when he started speaking about the Vaishnavas, the Brahmanas were unhappy. And they started pelting stones at him, and they almost wanted to kill him. So Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur was very bold. Had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna forceful and bold? That's your right. You have the mace. Mace means gada. Who holds the gada? Lord Balram. And who is Lord Balram? He is Adi Guru. He is Lord Nityananda. So a true representative of Lord Balram will speak as it is and not worry. This morning, I received a wonderful, statement that somebody had sent me, and I shared it with everyone. Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur's words: do not give up devotional service. Do not give up devotional service, even if there are innumerable dangers, countless insults, and endless harassment. His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura. So we find even in our own movement, in our glorious movement of Srila Prabhupada, many devotees have to go through many trials and tribulations. Sometimes they have to suck up to the president or the administrators of the GBC, even though some of them are diluting His Divine Grace's as it is movement, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati message of forceful and bold. They dilute that. And when they do that, that is disservice to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. And some of us, or some of those, at least don't count me in, thanks Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur, we speak as it is. We are not here to please any ABC, GBC, or temple president, or any other person who has diluted Srila Prabhupada's teachings and his books. We have people in Toronto, where I come from, including some top-notch personalities. They don't like to use the word Hare Krishna. They want to call our temples the Bhakti Yoga Club. They want to call the Rath Yatra the Festival of India. Prabhupada never taught these things. They do not want to use the word Krishna. They will use the word divine. They do not want, even as recently from my own personal experience, newer temples should be only centers, no deities. Are we building a mosque? Are we followers of Islam? Are we impersonalists? We all need to gather up some courage and stand up against such bogus people. They may have the power, but there are powers that are displayed by politicians who are bogus and corrupt, and then there are leaders who are really good leaders. So we need to follow in the footsteps of the true leaders. And our true leader is those who are sincere followers of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. That's your right. You have the mace. Save me a fallen, your Divine Grace. So Srila Prabhupada takes a very humble position, stating that I'm so fallen, your Divine Grace. Please save me. The line of service as drawn by you is pleasing and healthy like morning dew. In the last verse, the line of service meaning the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the service, the highest. Yadi gaur na hoite kavite katabe ki hoito kemone dharitam de radhara mahima prema rasa sima jagata janat ke. If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not come, how would the whole world would have known the crescendo or the zenith of Krishna Prema and the glories of Radharani? Because Radharani is Bhakti Devi herself. We always say in the Jai Dwani, Bhakti Devi ki Jai, right? So Bhakti Devi means loving devotional service. So the line of service as drawn by you is pleasing and healthy like morning dew. It's so pleasing and healthy. Healthy because it purifies in our initial stages Krishna service through chanting of the holy names. That's the seva. What is that? Sevan mukhe jiva ado. And the first, we serve Krishna. Sevan mukhe. Sevan means serving through our mouth. Jiva ado, through using our tongue by vibrating with the holy names. Jiva ado first. So like this, the line of service is drawn by you is pleasing and healthy like morning dew, the oldest of all, but in a new address. It is the oldest. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Adi Purush. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about himself. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vano bhuyo ajo nitya ayam purano. Ayam purano, the oldest. Na hanyate hanyamane shadire. He's talking about the soul. And of course, he is the source of the soul. So he is also the oldest. Although he is so old, but he is now Yavanam cha. Lord Brahma in Brahma Samhita, he says, Advaita Vachyutam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham. Purana Purusham. He is the oldest, but now Yavanam cha. He is now Yavan. He is full of youth, although he is the oldest. So the line of service is drawn by you is pleasing and healthy like morning dew, the oldest of all, but in a new dress, miracle done, your divine grace. So in a new dress means basically it means all the different Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya, different ways we can engage everybody in Krishna service. And that is where our ISKCON movement is very glorious. Anybody can come in and start serving Krishna right from the very first second, either by hearing the Mahamantra, the Kirtan, taking darshan of the beautiful deities that are so beautifully decorated, taking the Charanamrit when they come to the temple, bowing down to the deities, bowing down to Srila Prabhupada, and then serving prasadam, all these different activities. One doesn't need to be a scholar, one doesn't need. ISKCON has here really followed Srila Prabhupada's one great quality of ISKCON compared to any other institution in this entire world is engaging everybody. Yuktascha bhaktamscha niyunjatopi vande guru Sri Charnaravinda. Engaging everybody in the service of Krishna. If somebody is an artist, Prabhupada encouraged, oh, you come. Jane, later on she became Janki. You come, draw. Yadurani, she became a very great painter. And all those different Prabhupada inspired them within the hearts of those devotees who had that artistic quality, that beautiful Krishna book, all the different pastimes, right from Krishna's pastimes in the Bhagavatam to Ramayana and Mahabharata. So beautiful. How Prabhupada inspired these Westerners. And that is amazing. That is Chakshudana Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu say. As long as they were very sincere and desirous to serve Srila Prabhupada, that Krishna book is amazing. It really transports you to the spiritual world. So if somebody had some good qualities of accounting, somebody has got good qualities of computers, somebody has good qualities, any quality, everything can be used in the service. Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchyate. Everything can be used in the service of Krishna, whether it is money, whether it is talents, it is skills, whatever. But the moment we use that money or those talents and skills for name, fame, kamini, kanchan, pratishtha, for money, for attracting the opposite sex, and for pratishtha, for self-aggrandizement, for name and fame, then it is not Krishna Sambandha Vairagya. It is not related to Sri Krishna. Then it is for our own sense gratification. So that is the 8 verses that His Divine Grace had composed. And tomorrow being that, I think I was kind of, it would be contempt if I would not speak about His Divine Grace Shrila Bhakti Siddhanta. He is such a amazing personality and unlimited that even hours and hours and hours or years and years of glorification are not sufficient. So whatever little I was, that I'm inspired in my heart today, I was able to speak. Generally, we don't go this long. This was an extended session, considering it is Srila Prabhupada's, Bhakti Siddhanta Srila Prabhupada's appearance. See, the thing is that most of us want Krishna Prem. We say that even in ISKCON, we say that, oh, what do you want? Oh, and very, very casually and suddenly we say, oh, I want Krishna Prem. But Krishna Prem is not so cheap. First we have to have prem or love for our acharyas. Once that happens, then Radharani and Krishna will bless us multiple times. That is because they are the Nija. They are their own. Nija Sarva Shaktis. These acharyas are not ordinary. They are all the Swapaksha gopis of Radharani. So they are Nija Sarva Shaktis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has declared that in the Chaitanya Sistastakam. What is that verse? The second verse? That Nija Sarva Shaktis. Namna Magari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Arpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala. So these are personalities who are my own, my Vrajvasis, in my amorous prem. They are perfectionists in Ratikeli. Ratikeli Siddhyai. So when I always encourage people and even myself that Shastra is there, no doubt. We don't want to become scholars. But when we hear about the glories of such acharyas, I always encourage, first, read Prabhupada's Leelamrit. Even before you go into Bhagavad Gita and any of Srila Prabhupada's books. Most people have not read Prabhupada's Leelamrit, Prabhupada's biography. Why do you think that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Vrindavan Das Thakur and Lochan Das Thakur, they wrote the biographies of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because through the biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have the highest principles of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have highest principles and the books and the verses that have been compiled by Raghunath Das Goswami, Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. Because all the root is Mahaprabhu. There is Sanatan Siksha, there is Rup Siksha. All these things are there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita based on his interaction. And right now we are studying this wonderful Samvad of Rai Ramananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So anyways, I will end here now. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the entire Acharya Guru Varg. And tomorrow is fasting till noon. So please, all Vaishnavas, please fast. And we can directly pray to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Tahkura. You are our Lion Guru. We made so many mistakes. We are very weak. And we want to please your dear disciple Srila Prabhupada. You are our Param Gurudev, our spiritual grandfather. Grandfathers are very kind to their grandsons and granddaughters. So please, we seek your blessings. And please imbibe us with pure bhakti. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarawati Thakur. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bo.